For centuries, the very idea of a global deluge has been consigned to the realm of myth, a dramatic fable whispered through the ages, often dismissed as folklore or localized memory. But what if these persistent whispers are not simply tales, but fragmented echoes of a profound truth, guarding the secret of an advanced civilization that witnessed the impossible? What if a sophisticated human society faced the greatest cataclysm humanity has ever known, enduring the vast, unforgiving waters that swallowed the world, only to mysteriously fade from our collective memory once the deluge receded? Tonight, we journey into the forgotten depths of time, seeking traces of this lost world, a civilization that survived the unthinkable, yet vanished nonetheless. So sit back, relax, and let the mysteries of the past wash over you as we delve into the enigma of the civilization that survived the Great Flood. Our story begins not in a single location, nor with a solitary artifact, but with an anomaly far more pervasive, far more haunting, the striking universality of flood myths across every continent, amongst cultures separated by vast oceans and millennia of time. We find remarkably similar narratives of a world-ending deluge. From the ancient clay tablets of Sumer telling the tale of Utnapishtim to the Hebrew scriptures recounting Noah's Ark, the stories speak of a great flood sent to cleanse the world, of a chosen few who built vessels of salvation, and of a new beginning emerging from the receding waters. Venture to the Americas, and the Apache, Hopi, and Maya traditions all speak of a great flood. The Maya Popol Vuh describes a flood that destroys the second creation of man. In South America, the Incas recount a flood that submerged mountains, saved only by a few who took refuge in a floating box. The Aztec tale of Coxcox mirrors these accounts, with survivors building a large boat and repopulating the earth. Even further afield, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia hold legends of a time when the seas rose dramatically, engulfing their ancestral lands. In India, the Matsya Purana describes the god Vishnu warning Manu of a coming flood and instructing him to build a giant boat to save all species. The Chinese legend of Gun and Yu tells of a catastrophic flood that lasted for decades, finally tamed by heroic efforts. The sheer consistency across these disparate cultures, the shared elements of divine wrath or cosmic upheaval, a chosen family or group, an ark-like vessel, animal passengers, and a new world reborn from the watery chaos, presents a profound challenge to conventional historical understanding. While mainstream history often categorizes these as localized events, exaggerated by oral tradition, or perhaps as allegorical tales meant to impart moral lessons, the sheer number and geographical spread of these narratives, often with striking details that seem to echo one another, suggests something more. How could such deeply ingrained, globally distributed stories emerge independently, if not from a shared, traumatic memory? For generations, the prevailing scientific and historical consensus has been that while local floods were certainly common throughout history, the idea of a single, global deluge on the scale described in these myths was geologically implausible. The gradual processes of Earth's crust, the slow erosion and deposition, did not seem to support such a rapid, cataclysmic event. Scholars pointed to the flooding of the Black Sea Basin as a possible origin for some European and Middle Eastern myths, or significant regional floods in river valleys. They suggested that as early human populations migrated, they carried stories of their local deluges, which then evolved and adapted in new lands, creating the illusion of universality. This diffusionist model, alongside the idea of independent invention based on common human experiences with water, formed the bedrock of the mainstream explanation. They argue that humans are inherently drawn to storytelling, and water, being both life-giving and destructive, naturally became a central theme in these narratives, regardless of a single, shared event. But there's a problem with this neat explanation. The but moment arrives with mounting geological evidence, unearthed over the last few decades, which suggests that our planet did experience rapid, cataclysmic global events in its recent past, events that could easily be interpreted as a true global deluge by any surviving civilization. Evidence from ice cores, deep-sea sediments, and ancient coastlines paints a picture of dramatic sea level rise, sudden climatic shifts, and monumental meltwater pulses that reshaped entire continents. Central to this revised understanding is the period known as the Younger Dryas, an abrupt return to glacial conditions that occurred approximately 12,900 to 11,700 years ago. This wasn't a slow, creeping change, but a sudden, violent shift, plunging the northern hemisphere back into an ice age after a period of warming. What caused this sudden reversal? The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis proposes a truly cataclysmic answer. A comet or asteroid impact, or perhaps a swarm of fragments that struck the Earth, unleashing a cascade of global effects. This impact, some researchers suggest, could have triggered continent-wide wildfires, destabilized ice sheets, and led to the rapid melting of vast quantities of ice, resulting in massive, sudden sea level rises, tsunami-like events on an unimaginable scale, inundating coastal areas and low-lying lands across the globe. Imagine the sheer force of such an event: colossal walls of water sweeping inland, landscapes transformed in an instant, civilizations utterly erased. This geological evidence reopens the question that the universality of flood myths so stubbornly poses. What if humanity did face a true global deluge? What if these seemingly fantastical stories are not mere allegories but accurate, albeit fragmented, accounts of a world-altering cataclysm that fundamentally reshaped our planet and the course of human history? If we entertain this possibility, the implications are profound, leading us to explore alternative theories that challenge the very foundation of our understanding of ancient history. Some researchers believe that if such a global deluge occurred, it implies the existence of a pre-existing advanced civilization, not necessarily one with flying machines or complex electronics as we understand them today, but a civilization possessing a different kind of advancement, perhaps a profound understanding of planetary cycles, astronomy, geology, or even the ability to foresee such a cataclysmic event. Theories range from this civilization possessing the foresight to detect the impending disaster, allowing them to prepare. Could they have developed sophisticated technologies for survival, perhaps massive, self-sustaining vessels far beyond the simple wooden arks depicted in myths, or even subterranean refugees designed to withstand the earth-shattering impacts and ensuing floods? Some speculate that this advanced knowledge might not have been purely technological, but a deep spiritual and scientific connection to the earth, allowing them to read the signs of impending doom in ways we can barely comprehend today. Furthermore, it is theorized that these survivors, these beings who witnessed the world drown, might have left behind veiled messages within the very myths that we now dismiss as fables. Could the symbolic language of these flood stories, the specific numbers, the names of places, the descriptions of heroes and gods, be encoded with information? Perhaps not direct blueprints, but mnemonic devices intended to preserve critical knowledge, a warning or a map for future generations who would emerge from the chaos of a drowned world. If these stories are indeed echoes of a real event designed to carry forward a hidden truth, what does that imply about the beings who survived it? What knowledge did they possess that allowed them to endure such a cataclysm, and what else were they capable of before they vanished from our collective memory? If these ancient whispers are indeed echoes of a real cataclysm, a global event that reshaped the world, then the question naturally arises, what of those who witnessed it? What of the beings who endured such an impossible ordeal? Where might we find the tangible testament to their resilience, their ingenuity, and their will to survive? As we listen to the soft currents of time, searching for traces of this lost world, we must turn our gaze not to the dry land, but to the mysterious, silent depths that now hold so many secrets. For it is beneath the waves in the forgotten embrace of the ocean that truly impossible structures emerge, defying our understanding of ancient human capabilities and pushing the very boundaries of our accepted history. Imagine, if you will, the vast, unexplored canvas of the ocean floor, a realm where time moves at a different pace, preserving whispers from epochs long past. And then consider the enigmatic Yonaguni Monument, lying submerged off the coast of Japan, a geological marvel that has perplexed researchers and provoked fervent debate for decades. Here, beneath the tranquil waters, we find an astonishing collection of massive, angular rock formations. They are platforms, terraces, seemingly carved staircases, and precisely angled walls, all descending into the ocean's blue embrace. The sheer scale of these structures is breathtaking, with some platforms stretching hundreds of feet, reaching a height of nearly 90 feet from the seabed. Their regularity, the sheer geometric precision of their features, right-angled corners, straight lines, perfectly flat surfaces, seems to speak of an undeniable intelligent design. It is an ultimate anomaly, an architectural ghost in the machine of our known past, stubbornly refusing to fit into any comfortable historical narrative. Mainstream geology, ever cautious and grounded in observable processes, often attributes these extraordinary formations to the relentless forces of nature. The conventional explanation suggests that the Yonaguni Monument is nothing more than a natural geological phenomenon, a result of sandstone rock strata being shaped and eroded by seismic activity, currents, and natural weathering over countless millennia. Researchers who lean towards this interpretation point to the natural tendency of sandstone to fracture along predictable lines, forming shapes that can, to the human eye, appear artificially cut. They argue that the sea's powerful currents and the geological history of the region could have sculpted these incredible features without any need for human intervention. It is a logical, scientifically sound perspective, one that seeks to explain the inexplicable through known natural laws, placing these massive formations firmly within the realm of the Earth's own artistry. But here, a significant but moment arises, casting a profound shadow of doubt over such naturalistic explanations. While the ocean certainly wields immense power, and geology can create astonishing forms, the uncanny regularity, the sheer scale, and the unmistakable architectural features of Yonaguni seem to transcend mere natural erosion. Natural processes, as powerful as they are, rarely sculpt such geometric precision on this monumental scale. We see distinct right angles, perfectly straight edges, and flat, level surfaces that appear too uniform, too deliberate, to be accidental. Some of the formations feature terraced steps, triangular indentations, and what appear to be carved channels, all aligned with an unnerving accuracy. If these are truly natural, then nature itself has crafted a masterpiece of engineering that rivals human capability, doing so with a meticulousness that seems almost intelligent. It begs the question, how could natural forces alone create such an intricate and coherent structure, one that so perfectly mimics the characteristics of ancient, monumental architecture? Could these awe-inspiring underwater structures be the remnants of a pre-cataclysmic civilization, a highly sophisticated maritime culture that possessed the knowledge and foresight not just to exist, but to endure a coming global event? Theories regarding Yonaguni range widely, offering glimpses into truly profound possibilities. Some researchers believe that the monument began as a natural geological formation, a massive rock outcropping, but was then expertly carved and refined by an ancient civilization. In this view, the natural argument isn't entirely dismissed, but it's augmented by the idea that human hands, with tools and understanding we can not yet fathom, enhanced and shaped these natural features into something monumental and purposeful. They might have seen the raw material provided by nature and, with an architectural vision, transformed it into something enduring. This would speak of a culture that recognized the latent potential in the natural world, and possessed the skill to unlock it for their own profound purposes. Other theories escalate the mystery, suggesting that Yonaguni is not merely a carved natural rock, but a fully constructed submerged city or ceremonial complex. This perspective envisions a civilization with an engineering prowess far beyond anything accepted by conventional history for that period. We would be looking at builders capable of quarrying, moving, and precisely placing impossibly massive stone blocks, all while contemplating a future submerged reality. Could these be the very foundations of coastal cities or even entire islands deliberately designed to withstand the rising deluge, or perhaps abandoned as the waters slowly rose around them? It speaks of a people who were masters of stone, masters of the sea, and perhaps even masters of prophecy, building structures intended to defy the very elements and stand as a testament to their presence long after their world was transformed. The sheer effort and planning involved would necessitate a level of societal organization and technological advancement that pushes the accepted timelines of human development back by many thousands of years. The implications of such a finding are truly astounding. If these truly are man-made or even significantly man-modified, they speak of a civilization capable of monumental construction and deep-sea activity thousands of years before recorded history. It would rewrite our understanding of early human development, pushing back the timeline of advanced engineering, complex social organization, and perhaps even maritime technology by many millennia. We would be confronted with a people who were not simple hunter-gatherers, but sophisticated architects and engineers, perhaps even astronomers, as some researchers suggest alignments within Yonaguni point to ancient celestial observations. What kind of tools did they possess? What methods did they employ to carve and move such colossal stones, often weighing hundreds of tons, in such precise ways? And what level of societal organization, what form of government or community structure would have been required to undertake such vast, long-term projects? The very existence of Yonaguni forces us to confront a potential past far more complex and intriguing than we currently allow. But Yonaguni is not alone in its perplexing silence. Thousands of miles away, in the shallower, shimmering turquoise waters off Bimini in the Bahamas, another enigma awaits discovery: the Bimini Road. Here, an impossibly long, remarkably straight stretch of perfectly laid limestone blocks forms an underwater pathway running for nearly half a mile. These aren't just random boulders. They are multi-ton, rectangular, or polygonal stones, often appearing to be perfectly fitted together, creating a distinct, unmistakable road or wall formation beneath the waves. The sheer uniformity of the blocks, their apparent arrangement, and the unmistakable sense of order they convey immediately challenge the idea of a purely natural origin. It is another profound anomaly, a silent testament to something that should not be there. According to our textbooks, once again, mainstream geological explanations step forward, proposing that the Bimini Road is, in fact, a natural formation. This hypothesis suggests that the blocks are naturally occurring beach rock, limestone that has been exposed, fractured, and eroded over time by wave action and seismic activity. Proponents of this view argue that the apparent straightness and regularity are merely coincidental, a trick of the eye, or a natural pattern created by the way certain types of rock fracture and settle. They point to other examples of natural beach rock formations around the world that can exhibit somewhat regular patterns, attempting to ground this anomaly within established geological processes. It is a comforting thought, a way to dismiss the unsettling implications of such an orderly arrangement in a chaotic natural world, suggesting that what appears to be design is merely the beautiful, random artistry of nature itself. But again, the but moment is undeniable, casting a long shadow of doubt upon the purely naturalistic explanation. While beach rock does form and can fracture, the uncanny regularity, the precise laying of these multi-ton blocks, and their consistent alignment over such an extended distance strongly suggest intelligent design. Natural erosion rarely sculpts and arranges such geometric precision on this scale, nor does it typically create such a clearly defined, coherent pathway that stretches for hundreds of meters. Many of the individual blocks appear to have been cut or shaped, displaying distinct corners and flat surfaces that defy random breakage. Furthermore, some sections show evidence of smaller stones acting as wedges or supports, apparently shoring up the larger blocks, further suggesting a deliberate construction effort rather than random geological happenstance. The very consistency of the road forces a reconsideration. It looks far too much like a man-made structure to be easily dismissed as mere coincidence. Could the Bimini Road, like Yonaguni, be the remnants of that pre-cataclysmic civilization, a highly sophisticated maritime culture that built not just to exist, but to endure the cataclysm? Theories here, too, offer compelling alternatives. Some researchers propose that the Bimini Road was indeed part of a grander structure, perhaps a harbour, a defensive wall, or even a ceremonial processional way, built by an advanced society that once inhabited the now submerged lands of the Bahamas Bank. This would imply a remarkable understanding of civil engineering, monumental stonework, and perhaps even an awareness of rising sea levels. The construction would have required significant labour, planning, and a command of resources that speaks of a highly organised society. Other, more speculative ideas suggest connections to the persistent legends of Atlantis, proposing that Bimini might be a physical fragment of that legendary lost continent, built by its sophisticated inhabitants. While a definitive link remains elusive, the undeniable precision and scale of the Bimini Road certainly align with the descriptions of an advanced civilization that once thrived in the Atlantic. Could this be a part of their infrastructure, a silent witness to their grandeur and their eventual submergence beneath the waves? It hints at builders who not only navigated the seas but understood how to build within them, or at least how to build in anticipation of them, creating structures that would ultimately be claimed by the very waters they mastered. If these formations truly are man-made, or even significantly man-modified, they speak volumes about a civilization capable of monumental construction and deep-sea activity, not just thousands but potentially tens of thousands of years before recorded history. Such an understanding challenges our fundamental assumptions about early human technological development. It implies a people with a highly developed grasp of engineering, material science, and perhaps even an advanced understanding of hydrology and the Earth's changing climate. They were not primitive cave dwellers, but sophisticated builders, potentially with seafaring capabilities far beyond what we currently attribute to ancient cultures. Their world might have been one of intricate coastal settlements, perhaps even entirely aquatic societies, uniquely positioned to endure the rising waters that would drown lesser civilizations. The implications extend far beyond the physical structures themselves. Such discoveries force us to reconsider the very nature of human progress. Were there indeed cycles of advancement and decline, rather than a purely linear progression? Could a sophisticated culture rise, achieve incredible feats of engineering, and then, after enduring an unimaginable cataclysm, simply vanish, leaving behind only these cryptic, submerged clues? These underwater enigmas beckon us to look deeper, to question our ingrained narratives, and to acknowledge the possibility of a forgotten chapter in humanity's story. What other architectural secrets, what other monumental constructions, what other traces of advanced understanding lie hidden beneath the vast, silent waves, waiting to be rediscovered by those willing to look beyond the accepted story? The ocean, with its unfathomable depths, may yet hold the most profound keys to understanding the civilization that survived the greatest flood, only to vanish again. From the depths, we glimpsed the possibility of survival, structures hinting at a people who defied the greatest cataclysm. But as the waters receded, as the world began its slow, arduous process of healing, An even stranger anomaly emerges, shifting our gaze from the submerged past to a new, perplexing dawn. It is a dawn that challenges everything we thought we knew about the genesis of civilization, whispering of knowledge imparted, not discovered. Our journey takes us now to southeastern Turkey, to a wind-swept plateau, where, for millennia, a secret lay buried, preserved beneath layers of carefully deposited earth. Here, in the cradle of what would one day become known as the Fertile Crescent, lies Göbekli Tepe, discovered in the mid-1990s. This site is an archaeological marvel, a profound mystery carved into stone, and a silent testament to a history far more intricate than our textbooks suggest. Its very existence is an elegant, unsettling question mark. At first glance, Göbekli Tepe appears as a series of vast circular and oval enclosures meticulously arranged. But as one draws closer, the sheer scale and astonishing detail begin to reveal themselves. Towering T-shaped megaliths, some reaching over 18 feet in height and weighing up to 20 tons, dominate the landscape. These aren't crude, roughly hewn stones. They are skillfully carved, often adorned with intricate bas-reliefs depicting a menagerie of wild animals, lions, wild boars, predatory birds, scorpions, spiders, and snakes. The artistry is undeniable, the symbolism profound, yet utterly baffling to our modern eyes. What makes Göbekli Tepe truly mind-bending is its age. Radiocarbon dating places its construction firmly in the pre-pottery Neolithic A period. Around 9600 BCE, that is an astonishing 11,600 years ago. Consider the implications of that date. Göbekli Tepe predates the invention of pottery by thousands of years. It predates the widespread practice of agriculture, which conventional history tells us was the catalyst for settled communities and the eventual rise of civilization. It predates the development of writing, metallurgy, and even the simple mud brick houses that characterize early villages. According to the accepted timeline, the people who built Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers, living a nomadic or semi-nomadic existence, primarily focused on the daily struggle for survival. Yet here stands a monumental complex requiring sophisticated planning, advanced stonework, immense communal effort, and a level of social organization that seemingly should not have existed at such an early stage of human development. It is an anomaly so stark it almost defies comprehension. Orthodox archaeology, understandably grappling with this profound discovery, generally posits that Göbekli Tepe represents the apex of what hunter-gatherer societies could achieve. The mainstream theory suggests that these early peoples, perhaps motivated by a powerful spiritual or ritualistic drive, gradually developed the necessary organizational skills and technical know-how to quarry, carve, transport, and erect these massive stones. Some researchers propose that the very act of building Göbekli Tepe might have been a catalyst for the agricultural revolution, as large groups gathered for communal building efforts, necessitating more stable food sources and thus leading to the domestication of plants and animals. In this view, it represents a remarkable and unique flowering of early human ingenuity, a testament to the capacity of primitive minds to achieve extraordinary things through collective will. It is seen as a pivotal, yet internal, evolutionary step in humanity's slow march towards civilization, where sophisticated structures gradually emerged from the ingenuity of nascent communities. But there is a problem with this explanation, a potent but that echoes through the ancient stones of Göbekli Tepe. The sudden emergence of this monumental architecture, this advanced astronomical understanding, and this complex symbolic artistry appears seemingly from nowhere. It challenges the gradualist view of human progress that has long dominated our understanding of history. How could hunter-gatherers, without permanent settlements, without established hierarchies of leadership that we understand today, without a surplus of food provided by agriculture, organize thousands of individuals for decades, perhaps even centuries, to undertake such an immense engineering feat. The scale of the quarrying operations, the precision of the carvings, and the sheer effort required to move such massive stones across considerable distances speak of a level of engineering sophistication and long-term planning that seems incongruous with the commonly accepted capabilities of Stone Age societies. Moreover, the astronomical alignments observed within Göbekli Tepe, which some researchers suggest might encode knowledge of celestial events or constellations, imply a deep understanding of the cosmos that is also unexpected for the era. The intricate iconography, full of abstract symbols and narratives, points to a rich inner world, a complex cosmology, and a shared spiritual framework that would have been incredibly difficult to develop from scratch by disparate nomadic groups. It seems less like a gradual evolution and more like a sudden infusion, a rapid leap in capability that lacks a clear preceding developmental phase. The conventional narrative simply does not adequately account for the sheer jump in complexity, from basic survival to monumental sacred architecture, with no discernible intermediate steps. The precise, almost ritualistic burial of the entire site, thousands of years after its construction, also adds another layer of baffling mystery, suggesting a deliberate act of preservation or concealment, rather than simple abandonment. What if, then, the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not merely emergent hunter-gatherers, slowly piecing together the rudiments of civilization? What if the knowledge required for such an undertaking was not developed organically by them, but rather inherited? Alternative theories propose a profoundly different explanation, that Göbekli Tepe and other similar, equally enigmatic sites from this period were either directly constructed by survivors of the pre-flood civilization we've been exploring, or by their direct descendants. Imagine a small, highly skilled group, perhaps fewer in number after the global cataclysm, but possessing an immense store of advanced knowledge. These individuals, sometimes referred to as culture bearers or elder brothers, could have emerged into a world scarred by deluge, populated by scattered, traumatized and largely uninitiated hunter-gatherer groups. Their mission, in this speculative view, would not have been to dominate, but to guide, to jumpstart civilization anew, sharing vital knowledge to prevent humanity from completely regressing into a primal state. Göbekli Tepe, in this context, might not be a temple built by hunter-gatherers for their gods, but rather a colossal monument, perhaps a center of learning or initiation, constructed by these culture bearers or under their direct supervision. It could have served as a beacon, a focal point for newly emerging populations, where advanced principles of construction, engineering, and astronomical observation were subtly imparted. These skilled individuals would not have needed to teach agriculture directly in its earlier stages, but rather might have provided the organizational framework, the understanding of materials, and the sophisticated planning capabilities that allowed for monumental construction even before widespread agriculture took hold. They might have understood the cyclical nature of celestial events, the importance of specific alignments, and perhaps even possessed a deeper, esoteric wisdom relating to the cosmic forces that shaped the cataclysm they had endured. The intricately carved animals and symbols on the pillars could represent a lost language, a pictorial encyclopedia of their knowledge, or even a mnemonic device for teaching complex ideas. Some researchers wonder if the T-shaped pillars themselves, devoid of facial features, represent stylized human forms, perhaps even the culture bearers themselves, standing guard over sacred knowledge, or perhaps embodying the very essence of the enlightened ancestry. It is a compelling thought that humanity's first monumental architectural achievement wasn't a slow, arduous climb from ignorance, but rather a sudden, inspired infusion of a sophisticated legacy. If these primitive societies of the post-Diluvian world truly inherited advanced knowledge rather than developing it organically, it reshapes our entire understanding of post-cataclysmic recovery. It suggests a history far more cyclical, where knowledge can be lost and found, where advanced capabilities can recede and then be carefully reintroduced. This perspective would mean that the earliest flickers of civilization, the very foundations upon which all subsequent human progress was built, might not have been spontaneous inventions, but rather carefully curated gifts from a hidden past. It would imply that the dawn of our known history is not an origin point, but a continuation, a reignition. What other knowledge was passed down through the generations, veiled in myth and symbol, waiting to be deciphered? How widely did these culture bearers travel, and what other seeds of wisdom did they plant in the fertile ground of a recovering world? If Göbekli Tepe represents the earliest, most tangible evidence of this interaction, then countless other mysteries, long attributed to simple ingenuity, might hold a deeper, more profound narrative. The implications ripple outwards, inviting us to look beyond the obvious, to listen for the faint echoes of a civilization that refused to be entirely erased. We've journeyed through submerged monuments hinting at ancient maritime prowess, and pondered the sudden wisdom expressed in sites like Göbekli Tepe, suggesting the guiding hand of a more advanced, culture-bearing influence in the post-cataclysmic world. The echoes of a lost civilization, resilient enough to endure the greatest natural upheaval, seem to whisper from the stones and deep waters, defying our conventional timelines. But this extraordinary resilience, this apparent capacity to survive the impossible, introduces an even more profound and unsettling anomaly into our historical understanding, one that leaves a gaping void in our accepted narratives. If such a civilization possessed the wisdom, the technological sophistication, the sheer tenacity to navigate the fury of a global deluge, enduring a world-altering cataclysm of unimaginable scale, then why did they vanish? This question hangs heavy in the air, a silent chasm in the tapestry of our known history, its implications stretching further than the eye can see. Why is there no clear, continuous, undeniable historical record of these survivors? Why did they not re-emerge, openly and decisively, to dominate and reshape the post-cataclysmic world, leveraging their superior knowledge and understanding to guide nascent humanity from the ashes of a drowned age? Their very absence after such a monumental achievement, after demonstrating such profound capability, becomes a mystery as deep and unfathomable as the ocean itself. What force, what circumstance, what ultimate decision could compel a civilization that survived the impossible to then disappear a second time, leaving behind only fragmented whispers and architectural enigmas for us to ponder? Mainstream historical and archaeological narratives typically offer a pragmatic, if rather somber, explanation for the profound lack of such an overt, persistent presence. They suggest that any populations fortunate enough to survive a cataclysm of truly global proportions would have been utterly shattered, their numbers drastically decimated, their once grand societal structures irrevocably broken and swept away by the forces of nature. The sheer scale of destruction, the profound loss of infrastructure, the complete transformation of the landscape, and the subsequent desperate struggle for basic survival would have stripped away any semblance of their former advancement. The few survivors, it is argued, would have been too fragmented, too few, too overwhelmed by the immense task of simply existing in a transformed, hostile world to maintain complex technologies, intricate social hierarchies, or cohesive cultural identities. Their knowledge, if it persisted at all, would have been rapidly degraded, diluted, and eventually absorbed into the general primitive chaos of the subsequent ages. Their distinct legacy, therefore, would have simply faded into localized legends, becoming indistinguishable from the myriad myths of emergent, struggling hunter-gatherer societies, their unique identities swallowed by the relentless currents of time and the overwhelming necessities of a world reborn from water and mud and ruin. The prevailing view posits that grand civilizations simply do not re-emerge intact from such devastation. They dissolve, leaving little but dust yet. Within this conventional explanation, however logical it may seem at first glance, lies a potent but a nagging inconsistency. a silent discord that reverberates through the annals of time and refuses to be easily silenced. If these individuals, these master builders, these architects of submerged cities and astronomical temples, truly possessed such advanced capabilities, the precise engineering we explored off Japan's coast, the monumental stonecraft and sophisticated astronomical understanding evident at Göbekli Tepe, the foresight to perhaps anticipate and prepare for a global cataclysm, then their complete, near-total fading from recorded memory, their seeming failure to conspicuously re-emerge as a dominant or even a distinctly identifiable force, seems profoundly counterintuitive, almost illogical. It challenges our very understanding of societal resilience, the powerful human drive for self-preservation, and the natural inclination of advanced cultures to rebuild and perpetuate their legacy. A civilization capable of enduring a global flood would, one might logically assume, be uniquely positioned not just to survive, but to thrive in its aftermath, to rebuild and lead, to leave an indelible and unmistakable mark on the new world. The profound absence of such an overt, continuous historical presence, therefore, transforms from a mere lack of evidence into an enigma unto itself, a puzzling void that compels us to seek deeper, more unsettling, and perhaps more extraordinary possibilities. This potent but invites us to step beyond the comfortable shores of conventional thought and explore a vast, uncharted sea of alternative theories, each seeking to explain this profound and mysterious vanishing act. One particularly compelling theory suggests a more deliberate withdrawal, a conscious, collective choice by this advanced civilization to intentionally step back from the emerging, less developed world. Perhaps they had witnessed humanity's recurring cycles of destruction, the seemingly endless patterns of conflict and regression, or perhaps they simply possessed a deeper understanding of the inevitable chaos and fragmentation that would follow such a global reset. They might have chosen to preserve their unique knowledge, their sophisticated technology, and their refined way of life from the inevitable dilution, corruption, and potential misuse within the burgeoning, primitive cultures struggling to redefine themselves. Could they have deemed the newly forming societies of the post-flood era unprepared, unready, or even unworthy of their deeper wisdom and advanced capabilities, choosing instead a path of careful separation? Some researchers believe they retreated into hidden enclaves, actually establishing secret communities or bastions of knowledge far from the eyes of a recovering world. Imagine, if you will, the enduring legends of Agartha, a fabled network of subterranean cities, humming with unseen activity beneath the earth's crust, or the whispers of Shambhala, a mythical kingdom of profound wisdom, hidden deep within the most inaccessible peaks of the Himalayas, accessible only to the most dedicated seekers. What if these ancient tales, woven into the myths of countless cultures, are not mere fantasy, but fragmented memories, symbolic echoes of a physical reality? Could a remnant of this civilization have developed the means, perhaps through advanced tunneling or sophisticated concealment technologies, to live in self-sustaining isolation, patiently observing humanity's slow resurgence from the shadows or from beneath the very earth we walk upon? The earth is vast, and much of it, even today, remains largely unexplored, unmapped, or unconventionally interpreted. What profound secrets could lie buried deep below the surface, awaiting a rediscovery that would utterly shatter our understanding of history and human potential? And what kind of wisdom might be guarded in such hidden places, passed down through millennia? Complementing this idea of deliberate withdrawal is the possibility of a widespread migration to remote, often extreme and nearly inaccessible regions ordered of the earth. Following the cataclysm, the world would have been a vast, chaotic, and largely uninhabited canvas, ripe for new beginnings or, in this case, a strategic retreat. Perhaps this advanced civilization sought refuge in places far removed from the nascent centers of emergent human activity, the deepest, most impenetrable jungles where nature reclaims everything with astonishing speed, the most desolate, expansive deserts, where shifting sands could bury entire cities in mere centuries, or even the vast, frozen expanses of the polar regions, which before the flood may have been more temperate and habitable. Their traces, if they exist at all, would be incredibly difficult to find, buried under millennia of shifting sands, dense reclaiming vegetation, or beneath immense, slowly moving glaciers that preserve and conceal. Consider the almost untouched vastness of the Amazon basin, its secrets guarded by countless layers of growth, or the remote, windswept plateaus of Tibet, shrouded in myth and mystery, or the enigmatic landscapes of Antarctica, only recently beginning to reveal its own ancient secrets beneath melting ice sheets. Could ancient oral traditions, speaking of sky people retreating to the heavens, or star beings vanishing into sacred mountains, be metaphorical descriptions of a physical migration to places deliberately placed beyond common human reach, places designed to be forgotten by the wider world? Such a society would need not just the means to travel vast distances, but the foresight to establish self-sustaining outposts, capable of preserving their knowledge and culture for millennia, completely unnoticed by the broader currents of history. What incredible technologies or self-sustaining ecologies might they have developed to survive and even thrive in such extreme isolation for so long? But what if their vanishing was less a deliberate, calculated choice and more a tragic, secondary collapse, a different kind of ending that even their advanced capabilities could not fully prevent? Surviving a global flood would have been an immense, almost unimaginable triumph, a testament to their ingenuity. Yet the aftermath itself could have presented a new set of truly insurmountable challenges, a struggle so profound that even their wisdom proved insufficient. The world they knew would have been utterly transformed, perhaps beyond recognition, its delicate balances irrevocably altered. The carefully balanced ecosystems that sustained them, the traditional availability of essential resources, the very climate and geological stability of the planet could have shifted dramatically and unpredictably, creating an environment that was fundamentally hostile even to advanced living. Perhaps the residual environmental changes, prolonged periods of extreme drought, rendering agriculture impossible, or relentless, excessive rainfall leading to widespread erosion and new deluges, widespread seismic instability shaking the foundations of any rebuilt structures. Dramatic shifts in ocean currents and atmospheric patterns proved too much to overcome, even for an advanced society already diminished and traumatized by the first cataclysm. Disease, too, is a powerful and indiscriminate force, a silent hunter that respects no level of advancement. A cataclysm of such magnitude would inevitably breed new pathogens, new forms of pestilence, born from the altered environment, decomposing organic matter and disrupted ecological balances. To these new microbial threats, even the most medically advanced society might have no inherited immunity or immediate cure. Imagine a world where their sophisticated medical knowledge, however profound, was suddenly rendered obsolete by an entirely new spectrum of biological threats to which their bodies had no defense. This silent enemy, unseen and relentless, could have swept through their diminished populations, completing the tragic work of the flood by simply eroding their numbers beyond a critical point of recovery, slowly extinguishing their light. Or consider the profound psychological and societal toll. Even among the most advanced, the human element is complex, fragile, and prone to internal strife. Internal conflicts, perhaps exacerbated by extreme stress, profound scarcity, and the trauma of loss, could have fractured their society in the chaotic, post-flood world. Imagine the immense psychological burden of witnessing such widespread devastation, the profound trauma of losing so much, so many of their kind, their heritage. This could have led to deep societal breakdown, a collective loss of purpose, or irreconcilable philosophical disagreements over how to rebuild, or even if to rebuild, and where to focus their dwindling energies. Perhaps they simply ran out of energy or hope after such an immense trial, their spirit broken by the enormity of their task. They might have splintered into smaller, more vulnerable nomadic groups, their once grand knowledge slowly dissipating as their numbers dwindled, their focus shifting from grand, long-term plans to the immediate, desperate struggle for daily survival. Over generations, their distinct identity would slowly fade, blending almost imperceptibly into the tapestry of emerging, less sophisticated tribes until their unique cultural memory was lost entirely. The memory of their grand past becoming a heavy burden rather than a guiding beacon. Finally, a more esoteric, yet equally intriguing, theory posits that their survival wasn't entirely physical in the way we commonly understand it, but something far more profound. Could their most advanced members have achieved a level of consciousness or technological mastery that allowed for a different kind of transition, perhaps beyond the material plane of existence altogether? This is where some theories delve into concepts of interdimensional travel, or even a collective ascension, a profound spiritual or energetic shift that allowed them to transcend the physical realm, to exist in a state or dimension imperceptible to our current senses and instruments, leaving behind only the most rudimentary, symbolic echoes of their presence. While highly speculative, this idea speaks to the true depth of the mystery, that a civilization capable of surviving the impossible might also be capable of a disappearance we, with our current understanding of physics and consciousness, cannot yet comprehend. Could they have reached a point where physical survival in a broken, challenging world was no longer their primary objective, choosing instead a different path of evolution or existence that rendered them effectively invisible to the emerging human societies? The ancient wisdom traditions across the globe often speak of such higher states of being, of realms beyond the immediate physical, and for a civilization with truly advanced spiritual or scientific understanding, this path, however extraordinary, cannot be entirely dismissed as mere fantasy. Each of these possibilities, however strange or challenging to our conventional worldview, compels us to question our deepest assumptions about societal resilience, the linear nature of progress, and the ultimate fate of advanced cultures. The sheer lack of an obvious, universally accepted explanation for their profound vanishing act is, perhaps, the most powerful testament to their uniqueness and the depth of the historical puzzle they represent. If they indeed left behind such remarkable traces, as we've explored in submerged cities hinting at incredible engineering, in monumental stone circles reflecting advanced astronomy, in the very foundations of early civilization, then why did they not leave a clearer, more definitive path, a more unmistakable signature in the annals of our known history? The question lingers, therefore, like a phantom ship sailing on a silent moonlit sea, forever just beyond our grasp. What ultimate force, what profound collective decision, what unforeseen and overwhelming circumstance could possibly compel a civilization that possessed the profound wisdom and unparalleled resilience to survive the impossible, to endure the fury of a global deluge and re-establish itself against all odds, to then vanish so completely, so utterly, so mysteriously from the pages of history a second time? The silence they left behind is as deafening as the cataclysm they endured, a profound, lingering mystery awaiting its unraveling, challenging us to look beyond the obvious. We are left once more to ponder the true nature of their disappearance, and to wonder what deep, perhaps uncomfortable, lessons it might hold about the fragility, the deliberate choices, and the hidden paths of advanced civilizations, both past and, perhaps, yet to come, forever echoing in the quiet corners of our collective memory. The world had found a new, uneasy equilibrium. The tumultuous waters had receded, leaving behind a scarred landscape and humanity scattered, struggling to simply exist. But what if their legacy wasn't entirely erased? What if, as the new world slowly emerged from the chaos, they returned, not as rulers, but as guides? Across the globe, in the earliest dawn of settled societies, a peculiar and consistent anomaly emerges from the ancient texts and oral traditions. From the sun-baked lands of Mesopotamia to the rugged peaks of the Andes and across the vast oceans to the lush jungles of Mesoamerica, myths speak of strange, enlightened beings. These are not simply local chieftains or revered elders, but gods or culture heroes who seemingly arrive from afar, bearing gifts of immense significance. They appear at a critical juncture after the great waters receded, and before humanity had fully rediscovered the path to organized existence. In ancient Sumer, we hear of Oan, a creature described as half man, half fish, emerging from the Persian Gulf. He walked among the people by day, teaching them agriculture, writing, law, and the arts of civilization, before retreating back into the waters each night. His wisdom was said to be profound, his appearance impossibly alien, yet his purpose was clear: to uplift a struggling humanity. Thousands of miles away, high in the Andes, the Inca and pre-Inca peoples speak of Viracocha. He is often depicted as a bearded, fair-skinned man, tall and robed, possessing incredible knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and social organization. He traveled across the land, bringing order, establishing laws, and instructing the people in sophisticated building techniques before disappearing across the Pacific. And in Mesoamerica, the revered deity Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, holds a similar role. While often depicted symbolically, his legends also speak of him as a wise, benevolent ruler and teacher, arriving from the east, bringing maize, calendars, metallurgy, and a code of ethics. He taught his people the sciences and arts before departing, with a promise to one day return. These narratives, repeated in various forms across countless cultures, present a baffling pattern. Why would so many disparate societies, separated by immense distances and seemingly with no contact, share such remarkably similar accounts of otherworldly instructors appearing after a great deluge to jumpstart civilization? It is an echo, perhaps, of a shared memory resonating through the mists of time. Mainstream archaeology and anthropology tend to interpret these figures through a lens of natural human development. Oan's, Viracocha, and Quetzalcoatl, along with their global counterparts, are often viewed as powerful allegories. They might represent the personification of natural forces, like the fertile waters that allowed agriculture to flourish, or the rising sun that brought light and knowledge. Some conventional interpretations suggest these myths are simply deifications of exceptionally visionary human leaders, particularly innovative chieftains or priests whose groundbreaking discoveries, such as the development of irrigation or the invention of writing, were so impactful that they were elevated to divine status by their grateful followers. It is believed that as societies grew more complex, these foundational stories evolved, adding layers of myth and wonder, until these figures became the gods we recognize today, fitting neatly into humanity's gradual ascent from primitive hunter-gatherers to complex, settled communities. This framework provides a comfortable, linear progression of human ingenuity, where every advancement is born of local necessity and local genius. But there is a problem with this explanation. A profound inconsistency emerges when we examine the precise details of these enduring legends. The consistent descriptions of these culture heroes go far beyond mere personification or the simple deification of an early leader. Their advanced knowledge isn't just basic survival skills. It encompasses complex astronomy, precise calendrical systems, sophisticated agricultural techniques, metalworking, and intricate social structures, abilities that seem to appear fully formed, often thousands of years before the accepted timeline for their organic development within these nascent societies. Furthermore, their appearance is often described as otherworldly or distinctly different. Oan's, with his fish-like form, is the most obvious, but Viracocha's fair skin and beard in a land of indigenous dark-haired peoples or the emphasis on Quetzalcoatl's exotic origins, challenge the idea of them being purely local figures. Crucially, their role is consistently described as reseeding civilization. They don't just guide existing societies, they often arrive to teach fundamental concepts to people who are described as struggling or even barbaric, initiating entire fields of knowledge rather than merely refining existing ones. This sudden injection of advanced understanding, appearing almost as a pre-packaged cultural toolkit, defies the gradual trial and error progression usually attributed to early human development. It suggests a knowledge transfer rather than an organic invention. Could it be that these aren't gods in the spiritual sense, but actual surviving members of the pre-flood civilization, or perhaps their direct descendants? Theories propose a more radical interpretation of these ancient legends, suggesting that these culture heroes were not mythical beings, but flesh and blood individuals who carried forward the knowledge of a lost, advanced world. One perspective suggests that these gods were indeed direct survivors of the Great Cataclysm, a people who had perhaps developed advanced methods for enduring such an event, as we have pondered previously. Imagine them emerging from their hidden enclaves, or perhaps from seafaring vessels that weathered the global deluge to find humanity in a state of disarray, their ancestral knowledge all but forgotten. Possessing a deep preserved reservoir of understanding in fields such as advanced agriculture, sophisticated astronomy, monumental engineering, and intricate social organization, they would have appeared impossibly wise, even divine, to the traumatized and struggling remnants of humanity. Their mission in this view was not conquest, but a profound act of benevolence to prevent a total loss of knowledge, to guide the scattered survivors towards organized society, and essentially to restart civilization, embedding their advanced understanding into the very fabric of these emerging cultures. Alternatively, some researchers suggest these figures were not the original survivors themselves, but rather their direct descendants. Born into a post-cataclysmic world, but carefully raised within isolated communities where the ancestral wisdom and values of the pre-flood civilization were meticulously preserved. These individuals, perhaps forming a highly disciplined and secretive lineage, acted as culture bearers. They would have gradually and strategically disseminated their inherited knowledge to the less developed populations that were slowly re-emerging from the chaos. This interpretation might better explain the fading aspect of these legends. These were not immortal gods, but rather individuals or small, influential groups whose direct guidance and teachings eventually diminished as their knowledge was absorbed and integrated by the nascent societies, who then continued to develop their own unique cultures, albeit built upon this foundational inheritance. A more intriguing and perhaps stranger possibility delves into the otherworldly aspect often ascribed to these figures. Some speculative theories suggest that these were not simply human survivors, but highly evolved individuals, or a distinct branch of humanity that had achieved a different, perhaps higher, understanding of existence, consciousness, or even possessed a slightly different biological makeup. They might be considered refugees in a philosophical sense, displaced from their advanced reality by the cataclysm, but choosing to intervene in the plight of their less developed kin. Their otherworldly appearance, their profound wisdom, and their seemingly effortless command over the natural world would not be divine miracles, but merely a reflection of their vast superiority in knowledge, technology, and perspective compared to the primitive conditions of the post-flood world. What if the wisdom and knowledge they imparted was not merely developed, but preserved? What if the collective memory of a global deluge, woven into the myths of virtually every culture, carries with it a deeper secret, the existence of those who overcame the impossible, and then, in a profound act of legacy, sought to ensure that humanity would not forget how to rebuild? If these ancient accounts hold even a kernel of truth, if these gods and culture heroes were indeed the last whispers of a civilization that saw the world drown and sought to prevent a total loss of knowledge, then the implications are staggering. It compels us to ask, could the very foundations upon which our earliest civilizations are built, our agricultural practices that feed billions, our sophisticated astronomical calendars that track the heavens, our earliest forms of writing that record our histories, and our fundamental concepts of law and ethics, be not purely the product of gradual, independent human invention, but a direct, hidden inheritance, a profound legacy woven into the fabric of our earliest myths, passed down from a people who once saw the world engulfed by water and chose to ensure that humanity would rise again, carrying their echoes and whispers into an uncertain future. The profound implications of accepting the existence of a highly advanced, pre-flood civilization challenge the very foundation of our understanding of human history and progress. As we piece together the fragments of a world that survived a global deluge and then vanished again, a fundamental anomaly emerges. This anomaly is not found in an impossibly carved stone or a submerged city, but rather in the very framework of our historical thought, the shattering of our comfortable, linear view of development from primitive to progressively complex. For centuries, the prevailing narrative has painted a clear picture: human history as a steady, upward climb, a continuous, singular, unbroken ascent of human intellect and technology. From rudimentary toolmakers to the first settled agricultural communities, to the grand empires of antiquity, and finally to the scientific and technological marvels of our modern age, this has been the accepted story. It suggests a gradual evolution, an ever-increasing sophistication, where each generation builds upon the last, advancing humanity toward an inevitable, brighter future. Our textbooks are filled with timelines marking these progressive leaps, charting a path from the simple to the complex, from the unlearned to the enlightened. This linear progression is often presented as the only logical course for human civilization, a testament to our inherent drive for progress and innovation. It's a narrative that offers comfort, suggesting a predictable trajectory for our species, affirming our position at the apex of historical development. We learn about the rise of farming, the invention of the wheel, the first writing systems, all appearing at specific points in a continuous forward-moving timeline, implying a constant march from less to more. The narrative suggests that complex societal structures, monumental architecture, and advanced astronomical knowledge could only arise after many thousands of years of slow, incremental accumulation of knowledge. But this comfortable trajectory is powerfully challenged by the whispers we have been listening to, by the traces of a forgotten past we have explored. If a sophisticated civilization could indeed rise, endure a global cataclysm, and then profoundly fade into the shadows, leaving behind only tantalizing echoes, it compels us to fundamentally reconsider humanity's true journey. The very idea that such a sophisticated culture, capable of the impossible engineering feats we've examined, could exist outside our accepted historical timeline, then survive a global cataclysm only to disappear from our collective memory, introduces a profound discontinuity. It presents a but moment that unravels the neat tapestry of our conventional understanding. The idea of a lost, advanced epoch forces us to question the completeness of our historical records and the assumptions underlying our understanding of progress. It means that what we consider the beginning of civilization may in fact be a re-beginning, a regrowth from the seeds of a previous forgotten era. This casts a different light on the sudden appearance of advanced skills and knowledge in early cultures, suggesting not organic invention, but perhaps the careful reintroduction of inherited wisdom. Alternative perspectives suggest that our accepted history is profoundly incomplete, based on selective evidence and ingrained assumptions that may have inadvertently omitted or misinterpreted a crucial chapter of humanity's past. Some researchers believe that the archaeological record, while vast, is inherently biased. It tends to favor the preservation of durable materials in specific environments, potentially overlooking entire cultures built with less resilient materials or situated in now submerged coastal zones. Could it be that our focus on what we can easily find has blinded us to what we should be looking for? This lost chapter forces us to consider a cyclical view of history rather than a purely linear one, where civilizations rise and fall, knowledge is gained and lost, and humanity's story is far more intricate and dynamic than we currently imagine. What if the past is not a straight line but a repeating pattern, a grand cosmic breath of expansion and contraction, where periods of enlightenment are followed by eras of decline, and then perhaps a new dawn? This cyclical model suggests that the fall of advanced civilizations is not an aberration, but potentially a recurring theme, a natural part of a larger historical rhythm. The notion of deep time, the vast stretches of prehistory extending far beyond recorded annals, suddenly takes on a new significance. If humanity has experienced not one, but multiple cycles of advanced development, then the entirety of our known history, often spanning a mere few thousand years, becomes a mere flicker in a much grander, more complex drama. This hidden chapter suggests a much broader canvas for human potential, implying that our current technological prowess, while impressive, might not be the peak of all human achievement, but merely one iteration among many. It pushes us to contemplate what advanced truly means. Is it purely technological, or could it encompass spiritual understanding, societal harmony, or a profound connection with the natural world that we have largely forgotten? The implications extend to how we interpret the very foundations of our civilization. If the culture bearers we discussed earlier were indeed survivors or descendants of a pre-flood civilization, then the sudden leaps in early agriculture, the sophisticated astronomical calendars, and the foundational myths of early societies may not be organic developments from struggling hunter-gatherers, but rather a direct, hidden inheritance. This shifts our gaze, transforming ancient ruins from mere relics of primitive peoples into potentially monumental testaments to a lost age of advanced engineering and profound knowledge. It invites us to look with new eyes at sites like Göbekli Tepe, not as an inexplicable anomaly of hunter-gatherers, but as a deliberate re-establishment of sacred knowledge, guided by those who remembered a greater past. This perspective also compels us to re-evaluate forgotten texts and oral traditions. What if ancient myths, often dismissed as fanciful tales, contain fragmented blueprints, coded histories, or veiled warnings from a past civilization attempting to transmit crucial knowledge across millennia? Could the seemingly impossible technologies hinted at in some ancient texts, or the detailed astronomical observations attributed to seemingly primitive cultures, be echoes of a much older, deeper understanding? Perhaps the answers are not missing, but simply misinterpreted, awaiting an open mind willing to look beyond conventional academic boundaries. The very narratives of gods descending to teach humanity become less supernatural and more historical, recontextualized as the benevolent acts of an advanced remnant guiding nascent societies. This new lens asks us to consider the possibility that these stories are not merely symbolic, but contain kernels of historical truth, passed down in the most resilient form, myth and legend. The acceptance of such a history would profoundly influence our understanding of humanity's true potential. If a civilization could once attain a level of sophistication, build structures that defy our modern capabilities, and then navigate a global catastrophe only to re-emerge and guide a new age, it suggests an inherent resilience and capacity within the human spirit that far exceeds our current estimation. It offers a powerful counter-narrative to the idea that our species is prone to inevitable self-destruction, instead highlighting a capacity for long-term survival and the preservation of knowledge across vast stretches of time and cataclysm. This challenges us to think differently about our present challenges and future trajectory. If knowledge can be lost so thoroughly, what precious insights are we overlooking today? What lessons from a lost civilization, particularly one that faced planetary-scale change, might hold vital keys for our own survival and thriving in an era of environmental uncertainty. It encourages us to search not just for new technologies, but for forgotten wisdom, for sustainable ways of living that might have been understood and practiced by those who saw the world. Drown and sought to prevent a complete loss of all that was valuable. If such a profound truth were to be fully embraced, it would not only compel us to rewrite countless textbooks, but also inspire us to look with new eyes at every ancient ruin, every forgotten text, and indeed the very potential of human endeavor. It would reframe our past, infuse our present with deeper meaning, and profoundly alter our outlook on the future. What other secrets does our planet hold, buried beneath the sands of time or hidden beneath the vast oceans, waiting for us to listen intently to the whispers of a forgotten era? And what might we learn about our own future by truly understanding such a profound past?